I'm Sophia, I'm from Toronto, and I DJ and make beats as Internet Daughter. I got the name Internet Daughter basically through Twitter. I got super into Twitter in 2012, and there was this user and his name was Daddy, and he just called a lot of the girls who followed him his daughters, and I just kind of was like, oh, Internet Daughter. And I made it my handle on Instagram and Twitter, and then I kind of became my sort of online persona. So then when I started making music, I sort of just went with that. It took me a while to even kind of figure out my sound and what I wanted to make. Like, I flipped between a bunch of genres when I first started, but now I've definitely seen myself more in like hip hop and instrumentals and like maybe some weirder club stuff. I started getting more into hip hop because I like that hip hop doesn't really have rules. Like, when you make something like techno, there's that specific sound it's supposed to sound like, and same with house. I find like you have your like piano chords, and I just found that there's a lot more room to experiment in hip hop stuff, and that's why I like it so much. My sound is definitely dark now. I would say it's kind of atmospheric. I don't know, it's usually pretty bass heavy. It took me a while to get the confidence, and the learning curve with DAWs is pretty steep, but I had an ex-boyfriend who ended up showing me how to use Logic, so I started on that and kind of just kept doing it. I always start with drums first. I usually do the kick first and then build my drum rack. And from there, I go into VST, and I don't really use a lot of audio samples. I use a lot of MIDI, which is like pretty tasking on my computer, but I don't know, I've never been that big into sampling. Like vocals, yeah, but all my synths I write in myself. I've been really into using more like retro sounds for my synths lately, which I kind of, it's inspired sort of by Misigno, who's an artist I really like and respect. My favorite synth is Omnisphere. I financed it because it's obviously a super expensive program, but I love it. Like, that's kind of all I use now. It's sort of replaced everything else because it just has so many different sounds in it. Like, there's drums, there's percussion, there's leads, there's bass sounds. It just has everything. It's crazy, like Foley, atmosphere, everything. I definitely really dug Brodinski's tape that he did with a lot of sort of SoundCloud rappers. Honestly, I forget what it was called. It was like Sour Patch Kids or something like that.
I got dope fiends and task force knocks. When you get more money, then you get more problems.
But I remember that was a tape that made me realize I wanted to start making more like experimental instrumentals for rappers and stuff like that. When I was a kid, I listened to a lot of 90s Euro dance at first. I listened to the Beatles, George Michael's. I used to buy a lot of those mix CDs with like, I guess it would be Euro remixes on it, but I listened to a lot of Euro, I guess, I don't know, like remixes of Tom Jones, like weird things. Like I grew Station 7 and, you know, those like Now 6 tapes or Much Dance. The first song, trap song I made, it ended up getting reposted by Uzi and put in a bunch of mixes, so that was like pretty monumental for me when I was just starting out, and it was my first trap song I ever made.
Yo, I'm lit.
I guess it's like the ultimate kind of validation. It kind of just, I'm pretty like, I have a lot of self-doubt when I create things, which I think a lot of artists have, or just like you want perfection and it's just, you're never satisfied, I guess. But it's pretty validating and kind of realize, okay, maybe I don't suck as much as I think I do. The vision behind Deleted Tweets was like definitely directly inspired by that Brodinski tape, because it was just, I never really heard such weird beats before, but it worked. And so that definitely was a big inspiration writing that.
How you talking from the bleachers? Now these niggas is reaching. Came back, now them hoes wanna come on my dick.
I was pretty into the dubstep scene when I was in university in Guelph, so that was like when Zed's Dead was still coming up and all that kind of stuff. But I remember it was Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, that first Skrillex EP. I remember the day I listened to it for the first time and what I was wearing, and I remember walking home from class listening to it, and then I immediately got home and was like to my roommates, you have to listen to this, I've never heard anything like this before. I went to a pretty hippie private school when I was a kid, so we did a lot of music from very early, and I ended up getting instruments pretty early and playing lots of different stuff. I played saxophone in jazz band, and then I played some guitar in high school as well, but I wasn't very good at guitar. I was pretty good at saxophone. My thoughts as a female is it's definitely improved in certain genres like techno and EDM, but I still think there's like pretty big discord in the beat and like hip hop making world, it's definitely still very male dominated. There's like people like Wonder Girl, so there are exceptions, but definitely not on the same scale as something like techno. I think a lot of women are interested now, and I notice a lot more women making beats. And I did a production workshop, and there was a bunch of girls who came. I did a DJ workshop, more than one actually, and like there was a lot of interest. I think the one at the Gladstone sold out like within the same day. So they ended up having to put more tickets for sale. So the interest is there. My favorite show that I've done, I'd say, would be opening for Bauer at the Hoxton. That was pretty surreal. It was just, the energy was crazy, so it was like a really fun show to play. People are just super responsive to everything. They weren't the kind of crowd that had to hear specifically songs that they already knew. They just wanted to hear like heavy bass music, and it was just fun. Everyone was like having a really good time. I definitely want to work with more rappers. I would like to work with more grime artists, honestly, but it can be kind of hard when they live in another country to get that finessed. But definitely more grime stuff. I'm gonna put out another EP in August, most likely. It might just be a beat tape. I kind of haven't decided yet. Eventually I would obviously like to tour and do that kind of thing, so fingers crossed.
Black plate on me, better make a motherfucker bleed. When they see me, all they hear is the banshee scream. I'm here to collect debts, make you lames pay respect, crush you like an insect, abject, reject. I am destruction incarnate. I'm the messenger of carnage, bitch. I aim at you like varmints, and your back's marked.